welcome, ladies and gentlemen, to a new episode of Africa Today, where we get you the latest news and events taking place on the African scene. And today we will be talking about President Sisi's visit to Belgium. Ambassador Bassem Radi said Sisi will discuss attracting investments to African countries and transferring technology to developing countries and enabling developing countries to be more dependent on renewable energy sources. Reviewing preparations for the next UN Climate Change Conference COP27 in Egypt, this year is also on the agenda of the meetings during the conference, as well as means of reaching tangible and applicable solutions to climate change issues. He's also going to discuss crystallizing a joint vision to support and finance the African continent during the coronavirus pandemic and facilitating the fair distribution and accessibility of all technologies related to the pandemic and vaccine production. El-Sisi's visit to Belgium will also include meetings to King Philip Leopold and the country's Prime Minister over bilateral ties and regional and international issues of mutual concern, and talks with Belgian businessmen over trade and investment ties. He will also hold meetings with EU leaders over bilateral ties and issues of mutual concern. And on this topic, we're glad to be joined over the phone by Ambassador Souaid Chalabi, former assistant to the Foreign Minister. Good afternoon.
Good afternoon.
Ambassador Souaid, how would you describe the level of cooperation between Europe and Africa in light of President Sisi's visit to Belgium?
EU and Africa's partnership has been taking place every year, the summit, except for the years that the pandemic was there. So the last one, the fifth, it was in Abidjan, the fifth summit. Now, today, the Belgium, Belgium is hosting the African Union and EU partnership, the summit, and this is it's engaging all the African countries and all the European countries in for the future of both continents.
Yes.
So it's been an ongoing dialogue between the two institutions.
Yes. How would you put Europe as an economic partner with Africa in comparison to other world economic powers?
Well, as we know from history that Europe and Africa were closely related in economic partnership even before the independence. There were colonies of Europe in Africa, whether it is British, French, German, or Belgium. So now it is partnership more than anything, because they are sharing opportunities, they have common challenges, they are looking to the future.
Yes.
So there is urgency to face the crisis that is affecting the whole world, the pandemic of the COVID pandemic and the climate crisis.
Yes.
So both AU and EU are very, they know that exactly that this is what is facing the whole world, and that is why the agenda is full of items that will concentrate on the future of relationship between Africa and Europe.
Mm-hmm. Ambassador Souaid, what are key areas of opportunity for European countries to capitalize on for Africa's development?
Well, the agenda is full of cooperation and partnership, and especially the climate change that is facing the world, and also the EU-Africa Business Forum networking that is highlighted in the agenda in order to improve the business and the investment opportunities between Africa and Europe, and of course to create jobs for Africans and also to stop the migration of Africans to Europe and to regulate it. So there are a lot of issues to be discussed, and there are roundtables for these these items and these issues that are going to be discussed, especially the future of youth and the future of small businesses and private sector.
Right. Ambassador Suad, we will go to a report on Egypt, the fifth edition of the Egyptian Petroleum Show, and we'll be right back with you to discuss the significance of this event.
This year's edition of Egypt's the largest oil, gas and energy conference and exhibition in North Africa and the Mediterranean is being attended by 11 ministers of petroleum and energy from several countries, as well as national and international oil companies. Government officials, business leaders, local and multinational corporations and petroleum industry experts are also in attendance. Those in attendance include representatives from the Organization of the Petroleum Exporting Countries, OPEC, Organization of Arab Petroleum Exporting Countries, OAPEC, the International Energy Agency, IEA, the Eastern Mediterranean Gas Forum, EMGF, the Union for the Mediterranean, UFM, African Petroleum Producers Organization, APPO, the World Energy Forum, and the Mediterranean Energy Observatory. El-Sisi focused most of his comments to the Egypt on once again championing the plight of Africa in transitioning to renewable energy sources and combating the unequal burden of climate change on the continent. He said the cost of fulfilling renewable energy commitments to address climate change is substantial. He also said African countries cannot afford such a cost. El-Sisi noted that Egypt, for example, implemented infrastructure ventures over the past 7 years at a total cost of $400 billion. He said African countries have become the least developed in comparison to nations in other continents due to historical circumstances and the legacy of colonialism, and their resources should not be exploited again. He said African countries should not continue to pay the price of the repercussions of colonialism and the exploitation of their sources for many years. Furthermore, he added that Africa has also become the most limited continent in terms of income and poverty, noting that 50% of its population still lives without electricity. African countries are not yet ready to attract renewable energy investments due to conflicts and instability. He also said Africa awaits objective, balanced and fair decisions from the international community in the next UN Conference of Parties on Climate Change COP27, which will be hosted by Egypt in November 2022 in Sharm el-Sheikh.
Welcome back, dear viewers, and still with our guest over the phone, Ambassador Suad Chalabi. Ambassador Suad, I think we lost our guest over the phone. We will go to this report and we'll be right back with our guest once again. Stay tuned.
The World Health Organization's regional head for Africa said Africa is transitioning out of the pandemic phase of its COVID-19 outbreak and moving towards a situation where it will be managing the virus long term. Dr. Matshidiso Moeti said the pandemic is moving into a different phase. Moeti said, quote, "We think that we're moving now, especially with the vaccination expected to increase, into what might become a kind of pandemic living with the virus," end quote. Moeti also said the number of COVID infections in Africa could be 7 times higher than official data suggests, and deaths from the virus 2 to 3 times higher. Moeti's comments confirm what has increasingly been suspected by a number of researchers who have been working to understand the so-called Africa paradox, why official reporting from African countries had failed to capture the same distribution of infections and deaths as elsewhere in the world. Some have suggested that the much younger age profile across countries on the continent may have contributed, but a consensus is circulating around significant undercounting in countries with weak health surveillance systems that have failed to pick up both infections and deaths over the past 2 years. According to a tally by Johns Hopkins University, recorded infections across Africa stood at more than 11 million as of the 10th of February and deaths at 250,000. If the WHO's estimates are correct, the real figures could be near 70 million and 750,000 respectively.
Welcome back, and once again with my guest over the phone, Ambassador Suaid Shalabi. Ambassador Suaid, President Sisi urged developed countries to provide financial support to African states to confront climate change. How important is proving financial support to Africa in this field?
As you know, this summit takes place every 3 years. So the last year, during the last year, Europe announced the Global Gateway Initiative. This is a strategy aimed at mobilizing up to 300 billion euros in investments around the world by 2027, and intended as a template for how Europe can help underpin a post-COVID recovery.
Yes.
Of course, Africa has suffered a lot during the COVID, the pandemic, and also during the climate change. The conference that will take place in Egypt, COP27, is going to handle this problem. And Egypt is now, together with the African Union, with the chairmanship of Senegal, are going to put the responsibility of of Europe to finance the handicaps and the problems that initiated because of the irresponsible handling of the climate in Europe. So Africa is not an initiator of the problem. It is suffering from the problem. So Europe should be financing the problems of the climate change, and this is going to be discussed thoroughly in this summit.
Yes. Ambassador Suaid, President Sisi said African countries have become the least developed in comparison to nations in other continents due to historical circumstances and also the legacy of colonialism. Now, how can this be countered? How can this be changed?
Well, Europe is trying to prove that it is a financial partner and it is a business partner with Africa because of its history. But
yes,
it is no longer that way, because it's not only the stakeholders seeking influence and offering assistance to Africa, but there are other powers in the world that have a lot of influence in Africa, like China, Russia, Turkey. So many other interested countries in the world are trying to influence the politics and the economics in Africa.
Yes. Ambassador Suaid, extending the transitional period for fulfilling renewable energy commitments was highlighted during the event. Now, how is Africa going along this path?
Yeah, this, of course, is a very important issue, and of course, it is also helping to fight the climate change. So to use the renewable energy and to depend on the technology in the industrial field. But we need, of course, the high tech that is used in Europe. And
yes,
we do not want only to export the raw materials and the oil and the gas to Europe and then wait until they manufacture the goods and send it to Africa. But we want to have the technology of also using our energy resources and using the clean energy and the green climate that we are hoping to have in Africa. So we need the assistance of Europe. Of course, we cannot do it alone, but we need the technology, the high tech, and we need the financial assistance in order to implement the technology of renewable energy.
Mm-hmm. Dr. Saad, amid the coronavirus restrictions, this event is being held here in Egypt. How do you see the significance of holding this event in Egypt amid the coronavirus restrictions and with this high level of attendance and participation?
You mean the COP27, or
no,
this is the EU summit is taking place in Belgium now? But they are, of course, taking very, very strong restrictions because they have been closing down many of their social and businesses, social and businesses. But in Egypt, we are going to take very good care when we have this big conference in Sharm el-Sheikh. Many restrictions will be put in order to restrict those who are coming to attend so that the pandemic does not
well, Dr. Saad, I meant the current conference taking place, the Egypt's conference that is currently taking place.
No, it is taking place in Belgium now.
Yes.
Yes, not in
Well,
Egypt.
I would like to thank you very much, Ambassador Saad Shalabi. Many thanks for joining us. And dear viewers, with this we come to the end of this edition of Africa Today. Many thanks for watching and stay tuned for more coming up here on Nile TV International.